Have you ever heard someone say, "You're too old to change"? Maybe it was a passing comment. Maybe it came from a family member. Or worse, maybe you've said it to yourself. It's a sentence that can settle deep into your bones if you're not careful. Like it's already been decided what your life will or won't be from here on out. But I want to challenge that idea today. Because the truth is, change isn't reserved for the young. In fact, the kind of meaningful change that sticks often comes later in life, when we have the time to reflect, the wisdom to act with intention, and the clarity to choose what matters most. Today, I want to talk about how to prove that idea wrong. Not with big, dramatic reinventions, but with quiet, powerful shifts. You can start today, wherever you are, however you feel. And here's the first one. Let's talk about moving your body, but not in the way you might expect. I'm not here to sell you a gym membership or tell you to start training for a marathon, unless you want to. What I mean is, shift how you think about movement. Most people think exercise means pain, sweat, or struggle. But after 60, movement should feel like a gift, not a punishment. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. One woman I met in a community group started with just 5 minutes a day, walking in place while waiting for the kettle to boil. Over time, that 5 minutes became 10, then 15. A year later, she's walking circles around her local park, chatting with neighbors she hadn't spoken to in years, not because she forced herself, but because she reframed it. Movement became connection, and connection creates momentum. Even stretching counts. Gardening counts. Dancing in the kitchen counts. The secret is to move in a way that feels good, and do it often enough that your body starts to crave it. Because a body that moves is a mind that stays sharp. And the more you move, the more you begin to trust that your body hasn't given up on you. It just needed you to believe in it again. And that brings me to the second shift. The language you use when you talk to yourself. We often carry around a lifetime of stories about who we are, what we're good at, and where our limits are. And many of those stories were written long before we had the tools to question them. You've probably said things like, "I've always been this way," or "I'm just not the type of person who can..." Fill in the blank. But here's the truth. The stories we tell ourselves shape our reality. And if your inner voice has been whispering the same limiting things for years, maybe it's time to start whispering something new. Start small. Instead of saying, "I'm not good with technology," try, "I'm learning something new every day." Instead of, "I've never been a people person," try, "I enjoy connecting in ways that feel right for me." A friend of mine started this practice after retiring. She kept saying she wasn't useful anymore, that her time had passed. But then she began volunteering just 2 hours a week at a local animal shelter. And you know what? She started saying, "I still have something to offer." And that new story became her truth. Words have power. Use them wisely, especially the ones you say to yourself. Now let's touch on one more important shift today. Reclaiming curiosity. It's easy as we age to fall into routine, and there's nothing wrong with that. Routine can bring peace, rhythm, and a sense of control. But sometimes, routine turns into a rut. And when we stop being curious, we stop expanding. You don't need to go skydiving to spark curiosity. You just need to ask more questions. Try a new recipe. Take a different route to the grocery store. Watch a documentary on something you know nothing about. Even something as simple as asking your grandchild about their favorite game can open a door to a conversation you never expected. A man in my building started learning Spanish at 72. Not because he planned to travel, but because he said he wanted to feel his brain wake up again. And every time I see him in the elevator, he greets me with a new phrase, usually mispronounced, always proud. You're not too old to change. But you may be too wise to waste time pretending you can't. Curiosity isn't about chasing youth. It's about honoring the fact that you're still here, still capable, still unfolding. So here's what I want you to take from this so far. Your body can adapt, your words can heal, and your curiosity can lead you somewhere unexpected. Even now, especially now. Let's keep going. When we start to open up to change, not just in theory, but in small everyday choices, it creates a ripple. And the next shift is one that many people overlook, but it can quietly transform how you live your days. Simplifying. Not in the trendy, minimalist, let's get a storage unit way. I'm talking about emotional simplification. Cutting out the things, the people, the expectations that quietly drain you without giving anything back. After 60, your time isn't just precious, it's sacred, and you don't owe it to anyone who doesn't meet you with kindness or care. One woman I spoke to said she used to attend a weekly dinner with old friends, even though every time she left, she felt worse about herself. They gossiped. They competed over grandkids. There was always tension. She finally asked herself, "Why am I still going?" So she stopped. Instead, she invited two neighbors over for tea once a month. That was it. Simpler, smaller, but so much warmer. Sometimes growth looks like letting go, not adding more. So ask yourself, where are you spending your energy that doesn't love you back? What relationships? What habits? What expectations? When you lighten that load, you're not quitting. You're making space for peace. And while we're here, let's talk about something a little uncomfortable, but necessary. Making peace with the past. You can't build something new while dragging around old bricks. We all have regrets. Things we didn't say, roads we didn't take, people we lost or hurt, intentionally or not. And the longer we hold it all close, the heavier it gets. But forgiveness, true forgiveness, isn't just about others. It's about lightening your own steps so you can move forward. That doesn't mean forgetting. It means releasing. Releasing yourself from the version of you that didn't know better. Releasing others who may never apologize. Releasing the hope that the past can change. One man I met at a wellness group shared that he finally called his estranged brother after 20 years. They didn't solve everything, but they talked. They laughed about an old memory, and he said afterward, "I felt taller, like I'd been hunched over without realizing it." Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about letting yourself off the leash. You deserve to feel free, not just in body, but in heart. Now let's lean into something brighter, maybe the most beautiful kind of change. Starting something new, something just for you. People often think they've missed their window, that if they didn't start painting or gardening or writing that novel in their 30s, it's too late now. But let me ask you this. What better time is there than a season when you finally have time? There's a woman who started sculpting at 68. She was embarrassed at first, said she was terrible at it. But she kept going. And last year she sold 3 pieces at a local art show. She laughed and told me, "Turns out I'm not terrible, just new." Being new at something doesn't mean you failed. It means you're brave. And the beautiful thing about being older is that you've already done hard things. You've survived heartbreak, change, loss. You've worked. You've cared for people. You've adapted to entire decades of transformation. Learning a new skill is just another adventure, one where the stakes are joy, not pressure. So what would you try if nobody was watching? What would you start if it didn't have to be perfect? That's your invitation. Maybe you write a poem. Maybe you learn how to cook something you've always loved. Maybe you join a walking group or sign up for that evening class at the community center. Maybe you finally pick up the guitar that's been in your closet for years. The world doesn't need you to be perfect at something new. It just needs you to show up to yourself with curiosity and kindness. Change doesn't have to come with fireworks. It can be quiet, steady, and personal. but it can also be the most radical act of defiance against anyone who ever told you your best days were behind you. They're not. They're right here. There's something incredibly powerful about deciding, on your own terms, that you are not done growing, that your story still has chapters left to write. And one of the ways we write those new chapters is by reconnecting with our body, not through punishment or perfection, but through presence. Let's talk about movement. Not exercise necessarily. Not gyms or routines that feel like another chore. I'm talking about joyful movement. Walking with a friend and laughing the whole way. Dancing in your kitchen when no one's watching. Stretching in the morning while the kettle boils. Even gardening. Yes, pulling weeds and patting soil counts. Movement keeps the body awake, but it also wakes something else inside us. It tells our bones, our lungs, our heart that we are still here, still capable, still in motion. It keeps us connected to ourselves in a way nothing else quite does. And here's the truth. If you're not moving your body, someone else will eventually have to. That's why staying active isn't about vanity or even strength. It's about independence. It's about being able to reach the cupboard, to tie your own shoes, to walk through the grocery store without pain. Small freedoms that add up to a big life. If your knees hurt, you can try water aerobics. If walking is hard, chair yoga is a gift. If you just need to start small, try 5 minutes a day. Just 5 minutes. The point is not what you do, it's that you remind your body, I care about you. I haven't forgotten you. We're in this together. And speaking of care, let's not forget the mind. One of the most underestimated shifts you can make after 60 is how you talk to yourself. The story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of, it shapes everything. We all have those moments where the voice in our head gets mean. It tells you you're too slow, too late, too irrelevant, that your opinion doesn't matter, that you should just stay out of the way. That voice might even sound like someone from your past, a parent, a partner, an old boss. But you get to rewrite that voice. You get to tell a new story, one where you are still valuable, still interesting, still learning, still lovable. It starts with noticing how often you put yourself down, how often you apologize for taking up space. Then you replace it, gently, with kindness, with curiosity. Imagine waking up and saying, I wonder what I'll enjoy today, instead of, oh, here we go again. Imagine catching your reflection and saying, you've made it through so much, instead of, look at those wrinkles. Imagine hearing a new idea and thinking, maybe I'll try that, instead of, that's not for me. You're not too old. You're seasoned. You're sturdy. You're wise. And most of all, you're still becoming. One woman I met said she started writing little compliments to herself on sticky notes and putting them on her bathroom mirror. At first, she felt ridiculous. But after a few weeks, something shifted. She smiled more. She stood taller. She started wearing colors again. She said, it's like I finally got my own back. Sometimes, self-respect starts with a sticky note. So now we've touched on movement, self-talk, and the power of beginning again. But there's one more piece that ties it all together. Community. Yes, even if you prefer to be alone. You don't need dozens of friends. You don't need constant social activity. But you do need connection. A hand to hold. A voice to call. Someone to say, you matter to me. And if that person doesn't exist yet, it's not too late to find them. You can start by being the person who notices others, who waves to the neighbor, who smiles at the cashier, who joins the local book club, even just to listen, who volunteers one afternoon a week. You don't need to be extroverted to be connected. You just need to be present. One man told me he started chatting with a guy at the dog park every Tuesday. Same time, same bench. They don't talk about deep stuff, but they always show up. And last week, when the man had a health scare, it was that park friend who noticed something was off and drove him to urgent care. Community isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's quiet presence. Sometimes it's showing up over and over until trust grows like moss, slow and steady. You're never too old to connect. You're never too old to try. And you're certainly never too old to be cared for or to care for others. Change isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more you than ever before. Not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because this life, your life, is still yours. Now let's talk about the most important and maybe most overlooked habit that proves everyone wrong when they say you're too old to change. Curiosity. Think about how often we shut ourselves off from new things simply because we assume we won't be good at them. We say, oh, that's for younger people, then, or I could never learn that, or it's too late for me to start now. But that's not true. Curiosity isn't about getting it perfect. It's about being open. Open to learning, to being surprised, to changing your mind, and to discovering something new about the world, or about yourself. I know a 76-year-old woman who recently started taking online language classes, not because she planned to travel, but because she said it made her feel like her brain was waking up again. Another man I met joined a local cooking club at 82. He said his hands weren't what they used to be, but he liked being around people who talked about things he hadn't heard before. These aren't just hobbies. They're acts of resistance. They're proof that the soul doesn't age the way the body does. And when you feed your curiosity, you're giving yourself permission to keep becoming, to stay in motion, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. And if you're thinking, well, that's nice for them, but I've always been set in my ways, I want to gently challenge that. You've already changed more times than you realize. You adapted when jobs changed, when your children grew up, when technology took over everything from shopping to banking. You've adjusted to heartbreak, to illness, to new routines. You are not a statue, you're a survivor. And every adjustment you've made has been proof that you are capable of more change than you ever gave yourself credit for. The world may try to convince us that aging is a narrowing down, a shrinking, but it's not. Aging can be an expansion, if you let it. An expansion of perspective, of kindness, of presence, of knowing what matters and letting the rest fall away. Change after 60 isn't flashy. It's not dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or fanfare, but it is profound. It shows up in the walks you take when you don't feel like it, but you go anyway. In the way you finally start saying no to things that drain you. In the way you try something new, not to impress anyone, but just to enjoy being alive. In the quiet moments where you realize you're not who you were 10 years ago, and thank goodness. Because the goal isn't to stay the same. The goal is to keep moving forward, no matter the pace. So when someone says you're too old to change, let that be your cue to prove them wrong. Smile and stretch your back. Go to that community meeting. Start journaling again. Finally take up that sketching, or plant those herbs you've been talking about for a year. Say what you mean more often. Ask for help when you need it. Tell the people in your life what they mean to you. Learn the name of the barista at your favorite coffee shop. Wear the outfit you've been saving for someday. Make the call you've been putting off. None of these things need to be perfect. They just need to be yours. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to begin again, even at 60, 70, 80, or 90. And no one, absolutely no one, gets to define your limits for you. So here's what I hope you carry from today. That every day you wake up is another chance to become just a little more of yourself. That even the smallest shift, one healthy habit, one honest conversation, one brave choice, can send ripples through your whole life. That you are never too old to learn, to grow, to connect, to forgive, to change, and that right now, right here, you can decide to be your own proof. You've got more power than you think. And you've got time. Maybe not endless time, but enough. enough to matter, enough to begin, and enough to show the world you're just getting started. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear what small change you're thinking of making. Drop it in the comments below. Let's inspire each other. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community where age is not a barrier, it's a badge of wisdom. Here's to living your fullest, boldest, most joyful life at any age. Take care, and I'll see you soon.